Um, we bought this ranch about 20 years ago, and we're located about 25 miles south of Tucumcari. That's Caprock in the background, and we've got land on top and below, and that's different soils. So, Dr. Boyce Williams, I don't know if anybody here, there's a man who knows who that is. NMSU soils professor taught literally thousands of students his introductory soils class. And when I took his class in 1968, some snuff-dipping cowboy would call it dirt, and Dr. Williams would say, it's not dirt, it's soil. And he was adamant about it. By the end of the semester, well, everybody called it soil. So, healthy soils resist erosion, provide physical support for plants, cycle and store and filter water, and in the end will sustain life and society. So the 5 soil health principles are: cover the soil, minimize soil disturbance, increase plant and animal diversity, maintain a continuous living plants and roots, integrate livestock. So soil health has really been emphasized here in the last few years, more than what it has been in quite a number of years before that. And it's been my experience in 44 years of managing under holistic management that when we improve the grass and the ecology on top of the ground, that we were also improving the soil below the ground and everything associated with it. Just didn't know that's what we were doing. And so I'm learning a lot just by attending these and other sessions. So some of the soil health concerns in 2003 when we bought the ranch was erosion, bare ground, invasive brush species, low water infiltration, and overgrazed plants. And this ranch has really been abused and overgrazed for many, many years. So how do I make soil healthy on rangeland? I have a basic understanding of how the ecosystem functions work. I know what's available for me, and I can apply these tools to the soil health principles and to improve the profitability of the land, improve the land, improve profitability of the ranch and the quality of life. So I went to the bar. Not really, but boys, I'm planning my grazing for 1 herd of cattle and moving them often so my soil will be healthy. Well, us coffee shop guys will laugh at you. Oh, he gets more rain than we do. Be careful, guys, he's probably crazy. Ignore him, he'll go broke, and I'll guarantee you I've heard every one of those. So, in order to run 1 herd of cattle for short grazing periods and long rest periods for the recovery, we needed to develop a water system. I've got a 9,000 gallon water storage tank at each one of my windmills. There's 6 wells, and then with solar pumps, I can pump water from these storage tanks to like a storage tank on the ridge, which from there I go to the headquarters. At the headquarters, I can pump water all the way up to the top. And so that's about 3.5 to 4 miles that I can move water. And this area is very well noted for weak wells and water pump salt. And without having storage capacity, without having the pipelines, wouldn't be able to move these cattle, wouldn't be able to rotate them like this. So you have to have the water infrastructure. Then, as I got the pipelines built, then I could start dividing these pastures into, and then further divide them as we went along. And now we have 30 pastures. A good water supply, the average grazing period in each pasture is 3 to 4 days, with an average rest period of 90 to 130 days. So it just depends annually whether I use 90-day or 130-day grazing periods, and that affects or impacts the length of the grazing period. So the first soil health principle is to keep the soil covered. As you can see, a lot of bare ground, invasive species in the background. By 2009, we're beginning to see some vegetation, revegetation. I had chemically sprayed the mesquite, and we're beginning to see good results from that. By 2018, then we're beginning to see some soil become covered, and you can see on this hillside it's kind of gravelly soil, and so we're beginning to see some vegetation. And it's improving even with the bad years that we've had with the drought. We just keep slowly gaining ground.
10 years.
When the soil is not covered, we'll have dust storms. So this dust storm is from dryland farms on the cap rock above my house. You can see that that's a pretty good storm, and every spring we'll see something like that. A few years ago, I was at one time was chairman of the Southwest Clay Soil and Water Conservation District, and we had Jimmy Emmons from Oklahoma make a presentation there. And afterwards, I began to see more and more of those dryland farmers were minimal tilling, and so we see a little bit less of these, but there's still some out there that you got to plow. And it's kind of like ranching. You can't put your cattle in one herd. You know, you're crazy when you do that. Keeping the soil covered also reduces soil temperature. So air temperature, 78 degrees, soil temperature in bare ground was 100 degrees. Where we had a little bit of litter on the ground, the soil temperature was 90. And where we had heavy litter is 88. So keeping the ground covered lowers the soil temperature, decreases the water evaporation, and that will make the microbial community much healthier environment. And so keeping the soil covered results in a healthy ecosystem both above and below the ground. And so we see a lot of, this is Arizona cotton-top. I've never seen that before, except in Grass's laboratory, and it was in a mount. And all of a sudden this shows up. The seed is there, we just have to make the conditions right in order for it to germinate. And so that's what we're doing. A lot of black grama, blue grama in this site. I was surprised to see black grama that far north, but we do have quite a lot of it. The second soil health principle is to minimize soil disturbance. And so, I had a lot of mesquite, and I root plowed this, so there's quite a bit of soil disturbance there. But if you manage it and take care of it, that grass will regenerate, it'll come back. So this is what we have 6 years later, and now 9 years later, we've still got a lot of grass here, a good diversity of grasses. We've got a cholla cactus that's coming in, a few individual mesquite, but yeah, I'll guarantee you, I was scared when I did that, but I was going to do it anyway, because I knew it worked out. And so, this is beneficial or detrimental. So what I do is I use range cubes to bring my herd of cattle into one area to really concentrate them for a matter of a few minutes, and we see where they have knocked the old grass down. This is a Tobosa flat, and they knock the old grass down and get the old seed heads and leaves on the soil. That covers the soil also, but it also provides some organic matter. It'll eventually break down and we'll have some microbial activity. I never feed in the same spot, never have in 20 years. And so the key to it is minimize that disturbance. And it's beneficial. So soil disturbance with grazing planting and the effect of the herd on water infiltration. This site, on this side of this fence, the cattle had just moved out the day before. They moved to a pasture just to the right there. And over here, there hadn't been any cattle in there for 120 days. The cattle will be there in 3 days. But you can see what the minimal soil disturbance with a herd of cattle for a short period of time can do for water infiltration. That was from 2 inches of snow. And where it's been 120 days, it's just running down the road. And I get to make tracks after taking this picture. But we try to do that over the whole ranch and with a herd of cattle. So this is a detrimental soil disturbance. And when I was at Brewster County, Marathon, Texas, we had 2 inches of rain and a hailstorm that drove 535 head of cattle to the end of this pasture. And so there's very wet conditions, severe hoof action, and that killed a lot of roots right there. 2 years later, it still hadn't recovered like across the fence here. There was nothing I could do with that. It'd be interesting to see it now, because that was in 1986, so it's been 38 years ago. Be interesting to see what that looks like now. Third soil health principle, increased plant diversity. So we've got Arizona cottontail, plains bristlegrass, some side oaks grama, blue grama. This is blue grama and black grama in here, and then this tall plant is green springletop. And we see a little bit of that coming in every now and then. It's slow coming in, but it is coming in. And we also increase our animal diversity. So this is outside my front door. We'll sit out there in the morning with a cup of coffee and watch the deer come up. We've got elk that have been coming into the area now for the last 3 to 4 years, and they're beginning to spread around the ranch a little bit. Quite a bit of antelope. Our antelope are really beginning to stay on the ranch more than what they had when we moved there. Also with brush control, we're opening up more habitat for those antelope, and we've gone from half a dozen antelope to over 40 that I've seen in one herd. And then these guys, so they keep things interesting also. More deer, and then this guy, he's a little bit confused. 2-year-old bull elk, and he's been hanging with the cows. He will eat cake. The cattle off the cake also. Pretty funny to see him out there. Got several species of hawk and got some eagle. Quail, our quail population has really increased. We've seen a big increase in our plains bristlegrass, and they have little bitty seeds, like grain-like seeds, and the quail really thrive on that. We've seen our quail population increase. With grazing management, low and short grazing periods, we see shoreline vegetation along our dirt tanks increase. And so we see these teals and ducks and geese and blue herons and what have you, seeing more and more than they stay there longer and longer. So the shoreline vegetation is pretty neat to see that, and I'm sure there's more in there than what I've seen. So fourth soil health principle is to maintain continuous living plants and roots. 2013, and this was the third year of the drought, so the neighbor had sold his cattle off the previous fall. We still had some grass over here. The wind really blew this soil over here, and our short grass would catch that soil, it wouldn't let it blow away any place, so it really caught it. And 2 years later, the recovery was just phenomenal. Now on the neighbor side of the ranch, well, it's Blue Grandma. It recovered. Those roots that looked like they're dead over here, they were still alive, and that grass recovered. The big difference is the diversity that we have, and the ground cover that we have, the soil cover that we have. Productivity. You know, we see more solar energy, conversion of solar energy to vegetation. This was just a couple of weeks ago when we first started getting some rain, and you can see the grass on our side is producing a lot more. This is just barely beginning to green up, a lot more bare ground. One of the things that did take place here on my ranch also, in 21, 22, we had a pretty good die-off of Blue Grandma. And it was so hot and it was so dry that the roots just couldn't survive. And so we see a lot of dead plants like this. We're beginning to see some grass plants reestablish in those areas, but even with the management that we have, where we have, you know, 96% rest on those pastures annually, we still had some die-off. When it's dry and when it's 100+ degrees, something's going to happen. Another fence line. See a lot of bare ground. And this side of the fence used to look like that before I cleared the brush and before we were doing our grazing planning. This is plains bristle grass. Still got quite a bit of bare ground, but we're seeing a lot of improvement. And this old fence line is about 80 years old. Neighbors' cattle would reach through and graze on our side, eventually push through. And so I built all of my boundary fences rebuilt in the 5-bar fence, and so we don't have neighbors' cattle over there now. But we still have a lot of grass. So the fifth soil health principle is to integrate livestock. And this is the ranch we had in Roswell. There's 360 head of cattle there in one herd. Neighbors didn't know what in the heck we were doing. And a couple of them came by and said, "We noticed you're moving cattle really quick and your grass is just staying great. What are you doing?" And so I had to tell them what we were doing. We had a little bit of water problem to begin with. Once we got that rectified, we could keep those cattle in one herd then. This is on our present ranch here, about 200 head. And when the cattle leave, I think this pasture right here is about a 5-day grazing period. When they leave, that grass is still looking just like that. It's, you know, it's pretty amazing. Some of our yearlings that we had in the past. So the herd of livestock is the best tool that I have to improve the soil, to improve the grass. You know, it's cheap. Once you get paid for it, it's cheap. So, like these yearlings, when I wean the calves, we'll keep them separate from the cows for 60 to 90 days, 10 minutes. And then we'll put them with the cattle, and that just gives us a bigger herd of cattle and more hoof action. So how is soil health from Jay's Ranch being impacted from raising one herd of cattle? So in 2015, we had the ORC range consultants from Utah. We're doing a study to measure bare ground in relation to the holistic management of the impacts, and using satellite imagery in high resolution. They took 77 of these photos, and this is using the drone, and you can see the difference here. The green is grass, the yellow is bare ground, red is shrub. So you can see quite a difference in bare ground in relation to either side of the fence. Satellite imagery, so here's the same location right there. This part of the photo was taken in 2006. And this is the fence line between the two pastures. Hardly any difference. And then after grazing, planting, and brush control, you can see that that you can really see the difference here between the two sides. That made a heck of an improvement. And horseback imagery, this is the same location. So, at 22% bare ground on the left, on the neighbor side, 16% bare ground on our side, and that's a 28% decrease in bare ground. And this was in 10 years after grazing management, after implementing this. So, also collected a lot of soil samples. We have 38% difference in carbon sequestration. We have over 4 tons more per acre sequestered on our side of the fence. That's another photo of another ranch here. So 2007, very, very dry. You can see all the bare ground over here. Our grass is short, but the ground is covered. Soil is covered. There's grass, living plants are littered on the soil. And this is pretty generous right here. This was 5 days after 2.8 inches of rain in 2013. And you can see how the grass on our side of the fence had responded very rapidly. It was just barely peeking up out of the soil over here on this side of the fence. And so we have more diversity. The soil is covered. And we see, I think what I'm seeing here is that the several years of grazing management, that we have more water holding capacity in our soil, we have healthier root systems, and the response from the drought is much quicker. See some erosion beginning to heal up. We had, by the time this picture was taken, about 3 years of drought right here. So we're seeing a little bit of loss of grass here, but it'll come back. We're going to see these cycles, up and down cycles. I set up 8 different photo points. And so this one right here, we got a lot of bare ground, but these are all weeds. Very little grass out here. 2011, that was the beginning of that drought, and so we had 6 inches there, but you can see the grass is becoming established here. 2012, that's in the middle of that drought. We had reduced our cattle numbers by quite a lot. And so we've got grass that's beginning to, it's healthy. And putting roots down into the soil, and so at 2013, still not a real good year. Our average, long-term average over 100 years is 16 or 15.9 inches. So 10.85 is still a pretty good decrease in precip. Right here, this was all plains bristlegrass. I had to part the grass there in order to shoot the post. And this is all natural regeneration. Like I said, the seed is there. And this was a couple of weeks ago. We've had about 3 inches since then. So this is going to respond really well. Bare ground. I use, these are wean calves. I use them to impact the soil, put out the cake, and they stay there a few minutes and then they're gone. And the grass has been coming back. I see some sumac that's beginning to come in. And so this is the kind of brush we have, juniper trees we have. I counted 70 trees on an acre, best I could. And I calculated that, you know, they're going to use around 8 inches of rainfall a year. So if you have 12 inches of rain, there's not much that goes into here for the grass. And what does go in here, well, it's running off the bare ground. After clearing the brush out, we see the grasses come in, we see less erosion, and so it's definitely benefited. The infiltration rates, much faster on ours than on continuous and on 5-year rested pasture. So this all translates into increase in our water static level in our wells. We had Kate Ziegler start measuring, and so we're seeing, you know, a foot. This increased 14 feet, 62 feet. I don't understand those, and Kate didn't either. But these were all from grazing management. Instead of the water running off, it's going into the soil. And this is one that they started with the playa. There's a well there just to see what water in the playa, what impact it has on nearby wells. This is one site that really hadn't shown much improvement, and I don't know why. So you can see, barely see here, the outline of the ranch up on the top of Cap Rock. This is where that photo point is. One thing to see here is all of these old farm fields. This was patented and started farming in the teens, through the 30s and 50s until about 1960 when it was planted back to native grass. But you can still see these farm fields, and some of them just don't respond. And Steve Cottis did an assessment on it on one site there. 5 soil health principles. They're all poor except for cattle. We've got plenty of them on there. And so this shows low soil respiration, microbial activity, low organic matter. And so what can we do? Keep doing kind of what we're doing. One of the things I want to try to do maybe is some bales, some hay. Put some hay out on that site and see how that works out. Cover the soil. This is close to Santa Fe. I don't know if you know where that's at. That's pretty close to Santa Fe. That soil is horrible right there. And there won't ever be a change of that because of some of the attitudes in and around that area. You know, water's running off. It should be going into the soil. The soil should be covered. I couldn't help take that picture. And so, healthy soils gives us a healthy rangeland, which gives us healthy livestock, which gives us a healthy quality product. Makes our customers happy, and it makes my wife and I very happy. That's all I got. Thank you.